Hello, my friends. Good morning to you. I hope you're doing well. Today we're talking about tech implementations. How do I put the sticker back on here? Last time we deleted the sticker. Now I've got to figure out how to put it back on, but that's okay. So we're talking about tech implementations here. So I'm trying to get our topic sticker on here, but it may just, not be on there. Let's see, can I draw? And no. Okay, so I'll keep reminding you throughout there since, the technology executive that can't work technology. But the point of this conversation today is to talk about the difference about implementations, right? Every implementation is its own living, breathing DNA. And I think that's where a lot of companies go wrong, right? Is they buy this really expensive technology, whether it's an enterprise level technology, whether it's an AI platform, and then they can't figure out how to get it actually embedded into their organization to produce that really important ROI, right? That's why we buy technology, to get better, to get faster, all of these different things. So before I get into it, if you don't know me, I'm Kyler. I run a system architecture firm that specializes in heavy industry, so the most complex technology implementations for biopharma, metals, mining, all of those different pieces. We're based out of here on Western Colorado, in rural Colorado. Oh, my calendar's way behind. I just got a glimpse of that. We're still in May over here. Better get that going. And I'd love to know where you guys are joining from today. If you don't follow my channel, we're all about just transparency in big tech, mostly in big software is my specialty, in SaaS pricing, and making sure that you just know what you buy. I don't care what you buy. I'm not here to sell you anything. I just care if it works for your organization. And most of that is going to come down to the implementation. And I'll tell you why. Most software, especially from an ERP perspective, so like the biggest software you can buy is enterprise resource planning, and that's going to touch everything in your organization, from finance to production to marketing to sales, all the things, right? To buy that is usually a multi-million-dollar investment, and 9 times out of 10 there's no issue with the software, but there is a big issue with how you're implementing it into the organization. So that's what we're kind of talking about today. So as always, I have an outline for us to go through. But if you have questions, comments, I learn just as much from you as you do from me. And the point of this is every implementation is different. So sometimes you might have experience in something that I don't. And so being able to have that dialogue in the comments, I think just shows people and validates like, hey, these are really hard projects. And everyone kind of struggles in different areas because it's not a cookie cutter type of approach, as much as, the bigger consulting firms, Deloitte, Accenture, anything else like that would like to say, oh, we have templates for that. If they say that, you should be running in the other direction, because that means they don't honor how unique your organization is and the unique needs that you have, and they're not listening to you, right? And that's what, my whole platform here is against, is, you getting caught up in all of this expensive budget from the SI, from the big consulting, from the vendor, and you're not able to actually use your technology for what you should be using it for, to service your community, your employees, your customers, right? So I'd love to hear where you guys are joining from. I always like to, be able to see what we got going on as far as in the audience. And then definitely, let me know if you have any questions as we go through this. So I'll just get into it. Your questions are direct in this. What type of tech is the hardest to implement? ERP, CRM, AI? I think it totally depends. I know that's like a classic consultant answer, but it really does. I would say probably ERP is going to be the heaviest lift, right? Because it's going to be the biggest system. But it really depends on like how well do you know your processes and your data. Then your implementation is going to be a little less painless, because it it's going to be easier to plug something into, the back end. Thank you for the rose. The back end of something that you're able to understand. If we don't know all of that, then that's a big thing as well. So let's see. CRM is usually a mess most often because it's managed by marketing who has no idea. Good point. Definitely, especially bigger CRMs. I think if you have something like a Salesforce, that's such a huge, complex type of system. And a lot of times that comes with, 47 customizations because Salesforce does its best to get in other areas of your business so that they can be more sticky, right? So it's harder to get off Salesforce. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means. Let's see. What do orgs consistently underestimate when implementing an ERP system? I think a few things, right? First of all, they underestimate and misunderstand the role of the system integrator. So we have a variety of different people. We call it an implementation network. Some people would call it vendors. You've got the vendor that you buy the software from. So Microsoft, right? Say you bought D365 as an ERP system. And then you have the SI that's going to implement it. So that's the system integrator. Their job is to technically plug in the function of the software, right? And so that's a big piece of the puzzle there. And then you have all of the other third-party integrations. A lot of people forget about those people. But like if we're doing a CRM, we need to be able to plug it into the ERP. We need to be able to plug it into the website capture. We need to be able to plug it into all of these different integrations, and those are a big piece of the puzzle as well. So I think they consistently underestimate, like, hey, the SI is going to take care of this. No, the SI is going to technically plug it in. They don't care if it works for you or not. That is your job. I think the second thing I'll take on that is a lot of times if we're going from a legacy ERP to just another version, we see that as more of an upgrade. So take this as a macro example, but say ECC to S4HANA. People think, oh, I'm already on SAP. This is just, a quick upgrade for my team. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. The vendor would love you to think that because they sell it faster. And then you're not as, due diligent on what am I signing, all of these different things. But that's not the case whatsoever. So let's see. Oh, these are so good. Let's see. Implementation supervisor here, we would need way more headcount to actually help our clients. Like you need more headcount from the client. Like you need people to say like, this is a full-time job in ERP implementation, or what does that exactly mean? Because I'd love to dig into that a little bit more. Let's see, is AI reducing the need for traditional ERP? Depends on the organization, right? And how technically mature they are. I would say if it is, it's because that organization is either A, very small, right? And doesn't need the breadth of an ERP system, or B, incredibly technically mature and they're running and building their own systems in-house. I think probably for the majority of organizations, no. But I think we need to reformulate that thought process is AI increasing the budget of our ERP system? And the only reason I want you guys to think that way is because I want you guys to be able to know like what that is being charged for. Like what exactly are you being charged for when it comes to your ERP system and AI agents, right? Their own silos, they never think they're as fractured as they are. Integration nightmares, absolutely. And it's hard for them, right? Not that, we need to make excuses for bad business behavior, but if that's how they've always done it and they've never had someone on the outside be like, hey, so just so you know, this is an absolute disaster. It's hard for them to realize, oh, like I didn't know that this was going to be such a hard process. And the vendor doesn't tell them that, neither does the SI, because they want that contract signed yesterday. So the faster they can convince this, and again, as I always say, big SaaS profits off of your confusion. So the less savvy you are as a customer, the more change orders you're going to get, and the more this budget is going to balloon, right? So let's see. not really a question, but I'm looking for a new job after my organization botched an implementation. Very cool. Yeah, send me your stuff. We're right now looking for some data architects. If anyone is interested in that. Let's see, pretty soon, absolutely unneeded. I'm not sure what that means. And companies misunderstand business capabilities for technical capabilities. And hello, good morning. I completely agree with that. I think they also don't understand how to get requirements for technical capabilities. And that, I mean, again, it's not a judgment. It's not saying they're a bad business. It's just saying that that's a very difficult thing to do. And so if you don't have the requirements, you don't have the foundation for the house, right? So we have no idea what we're trying to buy nor implement here if we don't know the problem we're trying to fix, right? The AI is my best friend. She was my work wife until they said we had to cut back on token usage. Yeah. So I always say with Copilot, how many therapy sessions are your employees doing? Because and is that actually, let's see. Good morning. I am a data and AI leader, heavy SFTC and S4 ECC. Love that. Definitely give me a call. I don't know if you're a contractor, but we're looking for specifically Microsoft data architects right now is the thing that we're hiring for. But data architecture is a big field to get going in, and that's why I said yesterday on our live to our friend that was had 35 years IT experience and was worried about getting outsourced. So I think that's a big piece of it. So let's talk a little bit about when it comes to implementation planning. What does that look like? So if you can't tell, I don't love the words change management, phase 0, blah, 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 because I feel like they don't mean anything and they don't have any sort of like actual tactical meeting. And it's a lot of kumbaya. Did you check your data? Did you check your processes? Now, the way I want you guys to look at it is before you go into implementation is like a battle, right? And this is going to be our battle plan. This is like our strategy, right, in the battle. And if we don't have this, we are at a huge risk of upping our budget because, again, our vendor partners, they might be wonderful people, but they have an agenda. And you have to remember that. The vendor's job is to sell you software. And then they say goodbye, right? You're never going to see those salespeople again unless you buy something else from them. And then the SI is there to technically plug in the software. It doesn't matter if it's working for you or that your people are using it or that you have user adoption or anything like that. They're going to go on to the next implementation because that's how they get paid, right? Is by, especially in SAP, go lives, right? So we need to make sure that we understand everyone's agenda in that conversation. The way that we protect ourselves, right? We do this a lot in our software advocacy work, is just making sure that you have your requirements that you made, not a vendor, right? That you understand what impact this is going to have on your team, right? Not the vendor being like, oh, everybody's going to love it. Everyone loves AI. Well, no, they don't, right? Some of my favorite meetings to sit in on are some of our readouts for organizational change assessments. Like, is your team actually ready for this? Or do they secretly hate you and they have no, And so a lot of times executives will come to come to us and be like, hey, everybody wants this software. They've been asking for it. And it's like, do they actually want it? Like, did you actually ask every end user, or are you just listening to, a few very loud cultural people in your organization, right? And so that's a big thing. And then all of a sudden we're in the red for certain departments that are like, I don't think you can implement this. I don't believe that this is a good choice for the organization. And they're shocked. They're absolutely shocked to their core that somebody could possibly not like their idea. And again, that's a whole nother leadership issue. But right now, that's going to be a big thing to look at. And I think that's the bigger understanding of how you look at your implementation network, right? And if you don't do the prep work on your processes and data, then you're going in there blind. You can't see, the enemy behind the lines, right? And you have no real leverage when things, get challenged. Let's see. Do you see AI speeding up implementations moving forward? Does that worry you? I mean, that's a good question. I certainly see AI helping the quality of implementation. So I think when we say things like speed up, we're thinking about that wrong, right? They can make us absolutely more efficient. And you can release an AI bot in testing and go in and push every button and then read out to that and then go do it again and then go do it again and then do it again and then do it a Tuesday at 2 a.m. and make sure all of these things are working. So I think there's absolutely room for AI in that. I think that when we talk about speed, then we're starting to think that things should go faster. What we should be asking is AI is going to speed up the quality of our implementations and hopefully buck these, weird industry trends that 80% of ERP implementations fail or digital transformations fail. Or I think Gartner's up 95% of AI pilots fail. Well, why don't you ask AI why the AI pilots fail? Right? So we have a consultant working on picking an ERP system while sales is shopping for a new CRM, all of them in silos. I think, so then I would wonder, okay, question, Brian, who's on your ERP core team? And so I think that would show me there that we didn't do what we needed to do in the beginning, because if we're already paying a consultant to pick our ERP system, right, and then we have sales wasting valuable time shopping for a CRM, then who's on our core team? Because we should have someone from sales over there, because ERPs have CRMs in them, maybe not good ones, right? But if you need a heavy CRM system, then we're looking at another system. So that happens all the time. And that, again, we went to the consultant too early, because we should not be paying for someone outside our organization if we're not ready on the inside. We're never going to be perfect, right? We're never going to be 100%, but we certainly are going to know what we buy before we pay somebody else to tell us what we buy, right? So how should an implementation success be measured? So when we go through that prep, we're setting in that assess, right, and plan, we're phases of our implementation, we're setting KPIs. So are we trying to be faster? Are we trying to make more money? Are we trying to, have better user engagement? Are we trying to automate something, right? Until you really can answer those questions, then there can be no success measured. So those KPIs need to be measured, and then we put them in the contracting for the vendor, right? So, this little thing on TikTok tells me what, I don't know if it's an automation for their lives, but it keeps like trolling me over here from TikTok. It's the vibe and the energy in the room is very low, or engagement is very low. And I'm over here being I feel like we're having a great conversation, but thanks so much, TikTok. So geez, just trolling me over here. I feel like the vibes are immaculate. I don't know about you guys, but I'm vibing for sure. So when we look at that, we put it in the contract for the vendor too, because we need them to be accountable to what's important to us, not what's important to them, right? How often let's see. Sorry, it popped away. How often are implementation failures due to change management versus the actual tech? I would say 90% of the time. And even on the bigger cases that we're expert witnesses on, so those are the really bad ones, right? Those have not only gone to litigation, but now they're, they actually filed suit. And we're there. The lawyers come in and hire us because of our agnostic stance in the marketplace and say will you actually analyze this case and say what happened? And most of the time, it's not the technology. The technology might have been sold wrong, right? And that might still be the vendor's fault. But the technology absolutely is rarely the issue. And the ability of the organization to adapt to it and implement it is always the issue. How do you get authority in large orgs to implement these changes? I think they need to be able to see the business case. I always say the economic awareness around it. So if we have a $40 million ERP implementation, what happens in our risk assessment if we don't do A, B, and C? And you've got to tier that out. So if we don't have user adoption. Then we have the risk of having this shelf life and this technical debt for 5 years, because that's what we signed the contract. And, so now we have $200 million in changes, right? Or in this technical debt. And so that's why we need the support from large organizations to be able to do this. And most of the, large organizations we work with are well aware of those risks, right? Especially in heavily regulated organizations. We do a lot in aerospace and defense. So I love your channel. In reality, tech and can't enable undefined business needs and context. You're so right. And I'm so sorry I butchered your comment. Still 7 a.m. over here. Let me just take a drink of coffee. If you get a chance, look up the book Unlinked. On Amazon. Absolutely. I will. Thank you so much. Rage baiting. I know, right? Dear TikTok, this is an IT live. We are absolutely partying. I know, right? Like, it just is like the vibes are low. It's like, what do you mean? Get out of here, TikTok, right? How do you validate the requirements? Represent the needs of the business rather than the preferences. So I think our job is not to validate the requirements until we go in and actually do the analysis of capturing them, right? We've got to get the people to listen to us first, and that's half the battle, right? Especially if IT is in the room and then they have a bad relationship with the business, or it's kind of rocky, which it always is, right? When we come in or asking for requirements from the business and the business doesn't think we're going to listen to them, that needs to be the first thing. So we just need to listen to what they say and capture their requirements and dig in. We don't need to judge, right? As I always say, we listen and we don't judge, right? We don't say things like, well, our current system already does that. There'll be time for that. Don't worry, because it probably does, right? And a lot of times when we go into these types of projects, we're going to pick the legacy system. We might change it. We might customize it. We might get new licenses. We might do those types of things. But just because we don't like the technology doesn't mean it doesn't work. So it's much easier to shift the culture around a tech that actually does work and explain to them and show them that, like, hey, this is the tech, or even, show them that we're upgrading it. That is much easier than ripping out, an MES system or an ERP system or something like that and buying a new one, because it's going to be painful. No matter if you're the most perfect organization, no matter if your processes are absolutely, crystal clear, your vibes are immaculate, right? So I'm just going to read them to you guys now. Create a value hook by promising to reveal a secret. Oh my God, this is killing me. What are you talking about? We have no secrets here, right? Because secrets don't make friends. We share all that big tech doesn't want you to know, so that you're not, in these secret contracts that you're like, wait, I paid $100 million a month in tokens. I didn't even know that I was doing that, right? How do you get business users to use AI safely? I mean, you've got to have an AI policy, right? So let's see how we do that. So we've got to have an AI policy in place, right, before you even know what you're going to go. Like, how do you explain to users, like, this is our policy, this is how we use technology, and then make them see, right, in the training, that a lot of times these cybersecurity breaks or anything like that, whether it's AI, whether it's anything else, are done by well-intentioned employees. They had no idea that was something that they were doing. They were trying to do their job better, right? So instead of framing it of like, you need to be in these policies and, the stick type of thing, you need to explain to them, like, hey, you could put the organization at risk if you do this, because they likely didn't know that. Most employees just want to go to work and do their job well, right? They want to get promoted. They want to, we don't have a lot of nefarious employees around here. And when we do, right, I think these types of projects really showcase, okay, this person needs to exit the organization, right? That's a big thing. Few influential stakeholders, that's an awesome one. Aren't change management issues just politics, internal stakeholders acting in their self-interest? like sometimes, right? But if you do change management as an actual practice and tactic, what we're trying to do is make an adaptable organization, right? And so we're trying to make a workforce of 10,000 be able to deal with technical changes in a way that's not going to absolutely cause this disruption, stop production, make them, freak out and be scared, right? So being able to do that in 2026, where we have constant changing of technology, right? That's why I think the word digital transformation is stupid. Like, what are you transforming? You've got to make sure that you understand how to communicate with your organization these types of changes in a way that makes them feel secure. If you're not able to do that, that is your core change management, whatever you want to call it, issue. Can politics be involved in that? For sure. Like, we go into all these types of organizations and have to act through politics. That's just going to be the nature of the global corporate dynamic. But I think there sometimes is self-interest, but most of the time it's that people are scared, right? They're scared they're going to lose their job. And that's not something that we can just be like, oh yeah, they're scared of this. That's their livelihood. That's how they feed their families. It's one of the most vulnerable things that we can, do to them. So we need to make sure that we really understand that. So let's see. It's mine. I created something called operational relationship architecture for the business side. I'd love to talk to you more. Please DM me, or I'll DM you. Just answer me. Which SaaS category do you think is still massively underserved? So I just did a round of funding, pre-seed funding. And the one I found that I feel like is very interesting, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, is project management, like capturing that tribal project management into platforms and being able to really focus on how do we kind of get a good project manager to create like some sort of template that we can train and learn models from, right? And that sounds kind of scary because it sounds like, human project management is going away, which I don't think it is whatsoever, but being able to document that traceability, because we not only need that traceability in project management, just like we do in production. I saw a lot of platforms that were trying to kind of spin that up. So let's see. Yeah, that's what I think. What do you guys think? Yeah, so dealing with 2 consulting companies. I work for a SaaS company. I love your videos. Thank you. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm honored to hear that. It really does make me so happy, and however I can provide value. So data strategy is more than tech and business. Is more than tech and business doesn't get that, and implementation fails because of it. I completely agree. And I think data is something that's so scary for people, right? That's why a lot of times we help hire a data architect on behalf of our clients, because like you've got to have that internal knowledge. You cannot outsource your data architecture. It's so dangerous. It's like, going up and giving somebody like the keys to your house, right? There's no way that you are going to be able to do that, nor should you do that. And I think a lot of people think that there's this like weird magic to making data flow, and that's not at all how it goes, or that in an implementation, the data is a destination. It absolutely is not, right? It is, it's a time in which you need to be able to get your data hygiene and governance in place. And that's where we get into trouble, especially with these token structures. Of all of a sudden, we thought we bought Copilot for $30 a month for 5,000 people in our organization, and then we get a bill because of our usage for $5 million in the month of June. And we're like, wait a minute, way to hold on, right? Because we didn't understand what we're signing. We didn't understand how the data flows, right? Is process documentation, sorry, it goes away. Is process documentation an accurate reflection of how work actually gets done? No. No. I would say I think process documentation is important, right? But only if we're talking to the person that actually does the process. Again, one of my favorite meetings to sit on are process workshops where we have like a production manager that's like, okay, this is how we do this. And then the actual frontline staff comes in and they're like, Larry, we haven't done it like that for like 3 years. And he's like, what? And they're like, yeah, we can't do that. Like, we have to get product out the door. And that takes us 10 extra minutes on not being able to, and the trucks are late. So we've got to put that in afterwards. We just keep it in a spreadsheet over here, and then we put it in at the end of the week. And Larry had no idea that that's what they did, right? So I think that's the challenge with process documentation, is we're not talking to the right people because we think they need like a manager title or something, someone important. I'd much rather talk to the frontline staff, much rather. So I wish more companies on SAP understood the value of Signavio. And your comment cut off, if they are in the space. So I think Signavio is an awesome tool. It's interesting that you say that, because I just got an email this morning on people ask me all the time, like, what SAP search should I get? And I always push them towards Signavio. Signavio is a process intelligence tool. I said last year in a lot of my keynotes that I thought 2026 was actually the year of process AI, because you're being able to go in and watch how your processes are actually happening from a technology standpoint. I think in manufacturing production, it's a little bit harder because you actually have people doing those processes and it's not as documented. But I think Signavio, or a process mining tool, SAP isn't going to let you use Celonis, obviously. I don't like Celonis. I think they have much more attitude than SAP. So I don't push any of my clients to use them. I think if you have SAP, use Signavio. It makes a lot of sense. So let's see. I will DM you for sure. Why are companies so big buying rather than building? So they own the data. I think the challenge with that, right, is TikTok wants me to ask an ultra simple question that requires a yes or no. We're too smart for that, TikTok. We don't do yes or no's here, okay? Why are companies buying instead of building? I think to a point that they are building like business intelligence platforms and things like that. When it comes to like core industry software, a lot of times we're buying because they're just better at doing what software does. We let the software do their job, and we make sure that we pick a partner that we can effectively implement on. And so if we have an ERP system, right? Building and managing an ERP system is huge, right? And if you don't have cloud architecture, right, in some way, shape, or form, you're still struggling with the ability to be fast across organizations, to be more nimble, even if you have a private cloud or whatever that is, or you're on GovCloud or something like that. So I think there is like more of a hybrid pushback. We have clients that are going back to on-prem because they're heavily, heavily regulated. And they have a very sensitive product that they're building, and they just need that level of protection. So when we go in an organization that wants to build, we're certainly going to have that conversation. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be easier for them to buy like a core software and be able to customize it in-house, because that's where I really see businesses get in trouble, is the SI, like custom integrations. A lot of times we have clients come to us and be like, hey, our SI owns our integration. That's a critical, mission critical function for us. We had no idea that they owned that. We hate them. We want to fire them, but we can't, right? Because we either break our entire production or, right, continue a business relationship with them for the rest of their life. And that's when a lot of people don't realize kind of what they're getting into. Even SAP and Signavio, if you put your data in SAP, it's technically SAP's data, right? And if you've ever been in a conversation with them where they want to block your data, they will remind you of that. So their platform, their data. And I think that's the biggest piece of like having an architect in-house, so we can at least see where are we going? Where is our data? And what does that flow look like? Data governance is really enablement, right? I love that. So let's see. You guys have such good stuff here. I agree, needing a dedicated data architect governance leader who knows that part of the business. Absolutely. A team, really like a team. Like I want the weird data engineer that doesn't talk to anyone, that's just in the data. I want like 3 of those, right? And then I want the the leader of data architecture that's able to go out and talk to the project management team and the IT team and all of those. 20 plus years in data strategy and governments, I still feel like I'm in sales. Girl, you're crushing it. The process is a means, not the end or the desired results. The process is dynamic. The goals are static. So well said. So well said. That's beautiful. It's poetic. People don't understand Signavio, but that's how data connects. Absolutely. Slowness has a superiority complex. Don't even get me started on slowness and their weird ego. Like, it's strange to me. And I, again, been in this industry for a long time, and I've never met an ego like that, which is saying something, you guys. So TikTok is so confused. Now doing a live during an outage would have the energy TikTok understands. So fun. So true. How do you choose AI tools? Similar to SaaS. Like, how do you choose AI tools? Like an AI tool, like how do you choose one? So I think the first thing we always send you to is what you already have, right? A lot of executives, hyped up, cracked out AI executives come to us and they're like, hey, we need, AI on all of these different things. And it's like, okay, well, sir, you have that, right? Like, you have a lot of AI in your organization. It might not be like drones flying all over your manufacturing floor, but you do have a lot of AI now. So why don't you leverage what you have and then go from there? And so that's a big thing. And then also, I would say, why do you need a new AI tool? What are you trying to achieve? Because the more tools we have and the more kind of like massive stack integrations that we have, the more vulnerable our security is, and the more we have to keep track of those contracts, especially right now in a world of everyone and their mom builds AI agents. And we don't know if that they actually do it well. I mean, the amount of companies that I've talked to for 30 minutes that can't tell me what they build on is just absolutely offensive. It's scary, really. So, and I think that's a big kind of conversation. So if we got to start with what we have now, and then you have to do what's missing. It's just like any other technology. Just because it's called AI doesn't mean that it needs to be something that you do differently, faster, without guardrails, all of the things. Out of the box is a myth at this point, even though it shouldn't. I completely agree. Let's see. The box is the myth. Yeah, much less out of it. Yes, absolutely. So many execs push AI for CEO problems. Like, dude, I read really fast. I don't need AI for that. Ask an AI salesman to detail how they prevent poison prompts. It's entertaining. I'm gonna steal that one because I would love to know that, right? And even more like corporate collaborative agents. Like, we have a lot of clients who have deemed Copilot like the safe AI, and that's not true whatsoever, right? And so, like, you can use Copilot. I don't care what you use, as long as it's not costing you, a bunch of money and it's working for you. Use Joule, use Copilot, use whatever, right? But it's not something that you need to completely do without any guardrails in place. Like, you don't do anything like that. You don't buy anything like that. If a salesman came to your front door and was like, hey, buy all these machinery parts, you'd be like, hey, weirdo, get off my front door, front step. And that's what you should be doing with AI vendors, right? This is not like a new technology. And every time we go into these types of different conversations and name it something differently, 100% of your viewers have not shared so far. You guys, why are you not sharing? TikTok wants to know. So weird. Do you think Salesforce, bigger competitor, has even, thank you for the rose, Tim. Do you think Salesforce, biggest competitor, has been founded yet? We're really dropping the ball. You guys are. Come on. No. So this is like a big question. So I do think they have probably been founded yet. I think they will come from a variety of different things. But what I think is Salesforce's biggest problem is they are not listening to their customers. And so when we have someone blow up that's not listening to their customers and get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, there's going to be a deflating period. That happens to all of them. SAP, Oracle, all the things. Salesforce hasn't really had like their reckoning yet, and I think they're going for it. I think them and Workday, because they're trying to be too much, to like, with Agentforce and making people, implement these agents. I think that's going to be their quote unquote downfall, is people being able to say, I'm not doing that anymore, and you need to be the ones that pull back. And they can't do that, right? Like it's not in their DNA to be able to do that. So that's what I think. I talk to a lot of pre-seed investors that are focused in CRMs. It's not my area of expertise. I'm the first to say that. But I do think that we have industry specific CRMs that are going to make a big, but I invest in vertical AI for the most part, because I think those big tier 1 systems are in for a downfall, right? So let's see. Because if I share, I'm wrong. Because if I share wrong, I get arrested and look bad in a jumpsuit. I don't know, man. Hey, don't judge me. I'm on a tour of Copilot events. I promise security is being talked about. I absolutely agree. I think they will get there. I just think that shouldn't be the main buying factor, right? Is because I think it misunderstands that Copilot is not a model. And that's what people really misunderstand about it. It's shuttling from all of these different models, right? That again is not a bad thing as long as you are completely clear on what you're buying, right? HubSpot isn't a major competitor to Salesforce. I wouldn't say so, no. I think HubSpot doesn't at all have the horsepower to compete with Salesforce. It also has a terrible business model of locking people into certain levels and then locking them out of their analytics. So I think HubSpot dropped the ball on not being able to scale like Salesforce can. Thanks for the perspective. I have not heard people say that before. It's interesting to hear. What do you think? I would love to know what you think. AI pricing is the Krispy Kreme model. The first hit is free. Once your business is hooked, money, absolutely. Man, Krispy Kreme. Remember, maybe you guys aren't old enough, as my, junior employees always remind me they're born in the 2000s, which is wild to me. So like a lot of times Krispy Kremes had like they were the case study for hype. There would be lines lined up so long before, and In-N-Out and all those different places. And now Krispy Kreme is like kind of gone. I don't know. DNA. Let's see. The amount of times agents was said yesterday, oh my gosh, you should make like a game about it. The AI bubble will pop. What do you think about micro SaaS? Micro SaaS, I think it depends on what you're talking about, right? Like, so I think there's all of these different names in the organization. And so I think for micro SaaS, I think it has to figure out like how it creates value for these bigger, more complex organization. And when we look at something like that, again, industry specific, I think it will get gobbled up by a private equity firm that essentially is going to combine all of those into one big SaaS model, because they feel like that subscription model is going to be the way. And a lot of times that's the goal of the founders, right? Is an exit model. So that's what I think. What do you think? Let's see, last 3 jobs I've had use HubSpot as CRM. We'll probably be changing to Salesforce soon. I think, I wouldn't change to Salesforce unless you need Salesforce. If the company's revenue is under like 50 million, HubSpot is fine for the most part. Krispy Kreme got a new CEO that understood why donuts everywhere was bad. John, you know a lot about Krispy Kreme. Are you our insider, our Krispy Kreme insider? HubSpot is horrible. Salesforce at least lets the biz customers customize fields, layout, structure. Absolutely. And I think that's a lot of times how we get consultants layered into the organization too, is like a lot of these people buy Salesforce that aren't ready for Salesforce. Like it's just like a $500 million company came to us the other day and they're like, we need SAP. We need SAP to scale. It's like, you absolutely don't. You're not an SAP customer yet. That's not a bad thing, right? But that will be too much horse for you, right? And I think that's a level at which we see a lot of times with Salesforce, because they buy Salesforce and it's not something that they know how to use. So then they go outside and source all these Salesforce consultants, and they're trapped with them for the rest of their existence. Created a drinking game around agent and bubble being said, woke up 3 weeks later. PE is a huge driver. You're absolutely right. And unfortunately, that's something we work with a lot on. Is this the right software, or are you backed by a PE firm that wants you to buy the software? Anyone is fine. Let's just be honest with the employees. And that's what makes me mad about it, is don't waste the time of your team to go through the selection that you're making them think that they're choosing, and you're going to choose something different. Like, just choose it so that they can, not waste their time, and you can show them how unvaluable you think they are, right? Micro SaaS will soon move to vertical agent businesses. The micro SaaS will be, sorry, I think you got cut off here. I completely agree with you. I think it will move to vertical agent businesses, and then either big industry will acquire them or big PE will acquire them, right? So let's see. Yes, companies need to stop buying Lamborghinis when they need Hondas. You know what? And Hondas are great. My first car, I called her Old Blue because all my friends had nicer cars than me, but was a 1988 Honda Accord. And let me tell you, she ran for a long time, right? And so it absolutely is something. I worked for a PR company, and a few boxes of hot donuts on Friday gave IT a lot of love. Good, as they should. They should be delivering snacks. That's what I always say when, especially our junior employers, like, IT doesn't like me. The devs doesn't like me. It's like, well, of course they don't like you. They're never going to like you, but they will respect you for the right, usually snacks, right? And if you actually listen to them. It's all about horsepower under the hood. Absolutely. My company is essentially 6 companies that bought by a VC company. They just chose Salesforce. That would make sense. They actually have no systems in place. Still 6 different systems. Absolutely. I think it's and that's pretty normal. Like, we're working with a bigger steel manufacturer that just bought a bunch of other steel companies, and they need to decide, like, do we keep systems in place, or do we assimilate that onto one system? And there's no right answer to that, right? It has to be what's best for the company, right? Anyone else loves submitting innovation proposals to executives? Recently sent me another one for retail Zipline. I don't know anything about that. We have a huge retail community here on my channel, and so somehow they think that I do like luxury retail. So I get a lot of calls for like luxury retail, which makes me laugh so hard because I'm like a steel-toed boots. I have never owned a luxury thing in my life. But a lot of them talk about Zipline, right? So yes, getting a lot of innovation strategies. And, I think it's one of those things where, is this an actual innovation strategy, or are we making up words and, having AI slop build it for us? And I see that a lot, in new SaaS company proposals too. So in the last couple minutes here, because this has been such a good live, and I really appreciate, all of the great dialogue on here. I just want to remind you of a couple things, right? We could pick the best software in the world and implement it poorly, and we're still going to lose money, right, on that type of proposal. And I really just want you guys to remember that it's less about the software, and it's more about making sure that we have an implementation strategy, right? And that everybody is able to kind of talk through that and be included in that and make that work. So let's see, I work on the front line and work for Five Below, and they love Innovation Ideas Center. I love that. I love Five Below. Do you do these lives on a schedule? I really try. When I tell you that the summer schedule with my kids home is rolling me, I would much rather be with you guys all day than, dropping off at camps. But my goal is to do Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 a.m. Mountain time. So that would be 9 a.m. Eastern time here in the States. So let me know if that works for you. I would love to know that. Let's see. AI agents forced on business vertically specifically. Yes. So vertical agents. So vertical agents would be like industry specific or business area specific, finance agents, those types of things. How do you get employees to care more about work and less about their families? I've missed you, Adam. We haven't seen you in a minute. That one I can't help you with. I know. Our employees, we have family first policy here. So, that's what happens when the founder had 2 under 2 when we founded the business. Is a product leader at Best Buy, him too getting pushed at every angle. That's so funny. I think it's replacing the transformation verbiage. That's so funny. I mean, that's awesome. So what do they do with those? What do they do? Like, what have you ever seen one like work its way through? Let's see. My first live, my granddaughter has been using my phone on lives. She's not old enough. Well, I'm honored to be your first adult live. And that's a great thing. So definitely join Tuesday, Thursday mornings if we can. We also do a LinkedIn Live, which is, talk about if TikTok's mad about this engagement, they would be real mad on LinkedIn. But we do that at 12 p.m. on Fridays, Eastern time in the United States. So, thank you so much. I appreciate the heart. And we, my DMs are always open. Like, so a lot of times after these lives, people have specific questions. Always happy to do that. Most of the Fortune 100s do them, end up poorly executing POCs from what I'm seeing. That's so interesting. I could totally see that. I could totally see that for sure. So, yeah. Awesome. Cool. Opinions on wage increases, but slashing benefits silently. So it's not actually a raise increase. My opinion is that's a real shitty thing to do, right? But good thing everyone in this community is, effectively savvy enough to read the contract, because we do that in everything that we do. We always read the contract, right? And make sure that we always understand what our benefits are. And that's why I'm so big on you guys trying to be able to make sure that we're documenting. So in these troubled implementations, like my SAP S4HANA video where someone thought they were going to implement it in 3 months, that went kind of crazy this week. That is insane. And so what I'm worried about in that is not so much the integrators or the executives or anything, but you documenting that, like you're saying via writing, I think that this is, a rushed implementation, all of these different things. So we're saving those documentations and you're actually showing what's going wrong throughout that. So when someone, there's no way that you could implement SAP in 90 days. Absolutely no way. Zero way that's possible, right? And I think that's a big challenge in making sure that you're protected, right? And that's what my concern is. Just like in these situations where we're looking at benefits and contracts, and a lot of people will come to me before they go work for a certain vendor being like, do they suck? And it's like, no, absolutely not. As long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? Some vendors do suck and I would never send you guys there, but some don't, especially tier 2 vendors. There's lots of things to do. So no idea what I'm trying to do to sign up. We have no idea what we're trying to do here on TikTok. Obviously TikTok doesn't like our lives, but we don't care, right? Especially when everyone thinks they can just vibe code their way out of it. Couldn't agree more on vibe coding, right? We've seen where that's gotten us. So the continued idea that tech alone will solve business problems, love that. And vendors selling everything they can do. hey, Kyler, I sent you an email asking for information, another recipe on your way. I saw your email this morning, and I absolutely will get back to it. So thank you for the recipe, and I'm excited to be able to talk to you. So still 7 a.m. here, so give me a break. In Scotland, it's probably like, what, 6 p.m.? So I don't know. I have no idea. But all right, my friends. Well, I've got to get my kids up for camp, but I really appreciate you stopping by. Have any questions after this, definitely shoot me a DM. And then I will see you guys next Tuesday, or I will see you guys on Friday on LinkedIn. So one more. Do you think consulting companies for small businesses exist, but only for big companies? They absolutely do. So we have a sister company, Sister Christy Barber Consulting, that only does our SMBs. So only small to medium-sized businesses. I definitely check her out on here. She's so good. Serial entrepreneur. She does all of our family-owned businesses because she can navigate those dynamics and things like that. So definitely go check her out.